Hi there, it's Wednesday, which of course means it's Q&A Wednesday. Yay! So today's topic, I know it's kind of random, but it's so funny because I hear a lot of people talk about wanting to build abs and core strength, and a lot of people I don't think really know the difference. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I know it's amid the holidays, so talking about the holidays might be a great option, but for today, we're just going to talk about something that makes sense to a lot of people. So we're going to talk about the difference between working your core and working your abs, because they are two different things. It's kind of, if you think about the fact that, your thumb is a finger, but your fingers are not a thumb. It's kind of the same concept that abs are part of your core, but abs are not your core. Core involves way more muscle. So we're going to talk a little bit about the differences in that, and how you have to work them a little bit differently in order to get what you need out of them. So I have some people hopping on. Some people I recognize names and some people I don't. So welcome to Q&A Wednesday. This is one of those days where I like to talk about questions, mostly questions that a lot of clients ask, fairly common questions. Up until now, we've talked about all kinds of crazy things. Last week was, am I eating enough food? We've talked about whether sugar really is a problem. We talked a lot about that. So if you have a question, you can actually leave a comment below. I get all my best questions and the best topics from you guys. And here's the deal. I'm trying to teach you like it really is. None of the gimmicks, none of the garbage that you see on TV. This is the time of year when I start to kind of ramp myself up to be prepared for all the garbage that comes out alongside New Year's resolutions. In January, I start throwing things at my own TV because I get so frustrated with the amount of gimmicks and the garbage that shows up. People just trying to sell you stuff that really doesn't make a difference. If you do the right things over time and find the balance, you're going to get where you want to go. There is no pill, no stupid little gadget that you can use, that's going to take care of everything and be a miracle. It just doesn't work that way. So that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish here. So it's really funny because some people say, well, what's the one big tip that you have? And I'm like, that there's no secret, there's no cheat. You just have to do the right things long enough to get where you want to go. So again, tonight we're going to talk about the difference between core and abs. So I took some notes just to make sure that I could, make sure it makes sense to everybody. I know that some people learn different ways. So I'm going to use myself a little bit tonight as my example, because there is a difference between core and abs. And part of it is, yes, I know that most of us want a flat stomach. Some of us want six-pack abs, and those are great. But the older we get, the more that actual core strength or functional strength makes more sense. But they both play together. So, there's a three-step process to getting actual abs, or what we think of as a six-pack. And of course, I call them superficial muscles. They're the pretty muscles, the ones that, we want to be able to wear a bathing suit and show off in the summer, which is great, but there really is a process to that. You can't just do a zillion crunches and expect to have a set of six-pack abs. You actually have to do more than that. Of course, you have to do the work, you have to build the muscle, but you also have to eat right in order to burn the layer of fat off that tends to cover those, both in men and women. More so in men, that tends to be where they gain the most amount of fat is around their midsection, but women too can do that depending on the type of body that they have. So you have to actually burn that layer of fat off. Then you also actually have to learn to walk around in a semi-contracted state. So Jose is saying, happy, merry, merry. Yeah, it's that time of year, isn't it? So Merry Christmas. You actually have to walk around in a semi-contracted state. So here's my first example today. I'm going to try and do this without getting out of the frame of the phone, which I'm using for my camera. So, we all can, to some extent, just remember when you were in high school and like the cute guy or the cute girl walked by and you went, and you kind of sucked it all in. It's kind of the same idea. Drawing in is what we call it, but keeping those abs tight. Now I can show you, right? I can actually be super, super lazy. Watch. See, I can kind of I'm just hanging all out there. I'm just being lazy right now. That's my sugar baby, right? But if I tighten it up and I draw in those muscles, I can actually have a flat stomach without having to do craziness, right? Now, I do have a six-pack, I'm not gonna lie. It's something, to be honest, I never thought I could ever have, only because at 210 pounds at my heaviest, and guys, I'm only 5'2.5", I'd never had a six-pack in my life, nor did I think that was an option. But of course, over time, I've learned to be a little healthier and eat a little more nutritiously, or a lot. And so I do get fairly lean, and I do have those great abs, but I actually care more about core strength. I have a fairly bad back and some definite neck and back issues. And so to me, core strength is where it's at. When I lift heavy, I got to be able to support what I do in that. And without that strength there, all it does is allow my back to kind of pop around and do it gets a little bit hypermobile, and I have some issues with that, not to mention the pain that it causes. So the core strength is a little more important. So when we talk about abs, what we're talking about, like I said, are the pretty muscles. So that rectus abdominis, which is your six pack, the obliques, which are those cool little things right here that kind of wrap around the sides. And then of course you've got some lower abs, which technically it's called your transverse abdominis. And that is the one that when you suck it in or tighten it, makes you smaller from front to back. I like to call it the corset muscles that kind of make you look smaller. So all of those muscles are part of your core, but that's not everything, right? That's kind of your outer layer that shows, especially the leaner that you get. The inner layer, right, the muscles that are closer to your spine and deeper within your system are more of your functional muscles, more of your core strength. So let me just make sure that I tell you this the way that I kind of thought it out to make sense that so that it does make sense. So again, like the abs are the pretty muscles. Those are the ones that you can do crunches, torso rotations, knee lifts, all of those things that create the actual six pack on your rectus abdominis. Like I said, think crunches, think things like that. Now, when it comes to your inner muscles, your core muscles, one of the best definitions, of course, that I ever heard, I went to a conference, and they said, and it's kind of disgusting, but if you were to cut off your extremities, your arms and your legs, leaving your trunk, that is your core. And it involves muscles you wouldn't normally think. I mean, even the pelvic floor, yes, ladies, Kegels are a core exercise, so do them. It involves so much more than just the actual ab muscles. I actually made a list, not just the ab muscles, but your diaphragm participates, your pelvic floor, which I just talked about, your lumbar multifidus, those are the deep ones, clear back by your spine, and your transverse abdominis, which is most of us call our lower abs. So all of those play a role, and the biggest part of that is it's involved in balance. When I get some older clients, predominantly they're coming in and they're telling me, my doctor says that I need to have better core strength. I'm losing my balance. What do I do for that? And of course their thoughts are, I just need to do more crunches. I can't even put some of them on the floor because they don't have that ability. A lot of times it really involves things that are more about balance. It's something that we actually call proprioception or balance. It's kind of a functional activity. If you hold something in this hand, your body actually has to navigate to make sure that, first of all, that your lower back doesn't take over and get thrown out or cause issues. Your body has to figure out which muscles to involve in order to stabilize. So if you think about it, when you stand on one foot, your body has to actually kind of focus a little bit different on what to engage in order for you to not tip over. So that's part of it. And think of things even as simple as going up the stairs requires some core strength and some balance. So if we want to remain independent for most of our life and have a good quality of life as we get older, we need to make sure that we have that core strength available so that we can do everyday activities. It's not just so that we can, like I said, look strong and lift heavy. It's actually so you can do everyday activities as well. Core is all the muscles used to stabilize the spine and the pelvis and create balance. It's more for functional movement or your daily activity. And we just talked about proprioception or balance. When we work the core, we really want to strengthen from the inside out versus like the abs. We're kind of doing the outer. So we're working with the stabilizers, which are the muscles that are more near the spine. They're the deep ones. And then also the movers are the external ones, right? Like torso rotations for obliques, things like that. In the beginning, when you're starting to use core strength, a lot of people, of course, tend to not have that. You actually have to consciously think about what you're doing. It's thinking about, okay, now I'm going to lift something. I actually have to engage. Eventually, the goal is for you to be able to do that without you even thinking. It's called, you want your body to be proactive instead of reactive, which means you just don't even have to think about it. You go to pick something up and your body automatically knows through muscle memory, hey, I have to engage. And most of us don't have that. Again, that's how our backs try to take over. That's how we can throw out, we can injure ourselves. So that does play a huge part of that. So things that you can do, of course, like I said, for abs, we all know those. Those are the things, the crunches, all the things that we normally learn that are supposed to be core activities that really kind of aren't. For core strength, we actually have to do things that involve balance. If you're already lifting heavy, if you're doing things like deadlifts and squats, hopefully you already have that down, because in order to actually do them correctly, you have to have some kind of core strength and balance to begin with. And if you don't, you better learn. You better grab somebody that can teach you, because of course that's just going to create some injury, and that's a problem. Remember that when you do create injury, it's not a push, and go past your limits, because then that's going to set you back time when you can't lift and you've hurt yourself. You always want to make sure that you're doing things correctly, because of course you're trying to build something specific, and we want you to be strong, not hurt. So above and beyond anything else, form is the most important, not necessarily how much you can lift and how many times you can do it. It's especially for core strength. Sorry, my phone's just being really kind of silly. It's more about time under tension. So, like I said, anything that requires balance, changing of balance, things like, and even learning to stabilize. One of the things I learned through taking my NASM certification, which is the National Association for Sports Medicine, of course, is that balance is one of the most important things, and that even just starting out with 2 feet on a solid surface is most important. Then, of course, as you have enough strength for that, 1 foot on a solid surface, then 2 feet on an unbalanced surface, and so on and so forth. So, some people have incredible balance. That means that they've got some incredible core strength. So if you have any more questions to that, hopefully I've answered all your questions when it comes to the difference between core and abs. They're both important. To be honest, they really are. I mean, I don't know anybody who says, hey, I want to have a belly. I think that's so attractive. I don't know anybody who feels that way, even if they don't necessarily want a six-pack. Most of them, want a flat set of abs. So keep that in mind. Now, little caveat here. If you're getting ready to have Christmas dinner this next weekend, I can't even believe it's here already. It's freaking me out. You're going to be bloated. Guys, there's a huge difference between bloat and fat around the midsection. You should already know this, but I have a lot of people that freak out. Oh my gosh, I'm up 8 pounds. Whenever you have a cheat or free meal, which most of us are going to do during the holiday season, you're going to retain more water. You are going to be a little bloated when you eat some stuff that you probably shouldn't or don't eat very often, which would be my case. That's not the same thing. However, I have met a few people who actually have very, very low body fat, but still tend to have extended bellies. And again, it's just because they haven't trained those muscles to actually semi-engage at all times. So here's my tip for you. If you're walking by the mirror, pay attention. If you walk by a mirror or when you can see yourself in the car windows as you walk past, pay attention. Are you sticking it out or are you tucking it in? Right? And learn to teach your body to go ahead and tuck it in at all times. That alone is going to make you feel better, feel leaner. It's going to look great. So, okay, Jody has a quick something she wants to say. Using the example of cutting off our extremities and what's left is your core. Yeah, isn't that a great explanation? It's kind of morbid, but when it talks about even your glutes, even your butt muscles are part of your core strength. So, think that you have to teach all those muscles to work in different ways in order to engage your core and have the balance and strength that you need. So, quick note for tomorrow night, I had an incredible guest. She is going to be here next week, but she and her family have the flu, which it's going around. It's not fun. So we'll have something different for tomorrow night. I'll come up with something great. I always talk about something that's important. It is the real life edition, so it's more about real life things that happen. And this time of year, there's a lot going on, so I'm sure I can come up with something interesting real fast. But have an incredible evening, guys. Again, please leave your comments below. It really does help me to help you. That's why I do it. I'm here for you guys. I like to answer your questions. And here's the deal. If I don't know the answer, you bet your buns I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to look it up. So have an incredible evening and happy holidays, everybody. Have a good night.